Yes.
Could you elaborate on that statement?
Well, the problem of the Committee of the Regions is that it did not really deliver. There were high expectations in 1991 as it was set up, and the basic idea was that since Europe consists of many regions, regions should feel represented in Brussels. But this never came about. The Committee of the Regions mainly organizes receptions, trips and travels. If there is what they do in the institutional framework in terms of legislation, they are required to produce an opinion on every legislative proposal of the Commission. Now, I've been working in the Commission for 7 years, and I have never seen an opinion of the Committee of the Regions taken seriously. If in a meeting in the Commission you would invoke the opinion of the Committee of the Regions and say, look here, what the Committee of the Regions is saying here, it's supporting my reasoning, you'll be laughed at. These opinions are simply binned. They're not taken seriously. So does it mean that the regions are not important? No, regions are very important, some regions are very important lobbyists. For example, the German Länder all have representations in Brussels. If you go to the European Parliament, you'll see a small castle next to the European Parliament. It is the representation of Bavaria. They organize the Oktoberfest every year on the Place Jordan.
I'm aware of this fact. I've been to Brussels and I've seen the building. Just a quick reaction. How can the Committee of the Regions be taken seriously if the rule is that, okay, you can take into account the opinion of the Committee of the Regions? Actually, it doesn't really matter what they say. If the Committee of the Regions gives an opinion and the European mechanism decides not to work with it, it's perfectly okay. There are no repercussions. That is actually...
Well, that's what's happening. I mean, it's not regarded as important. The regions in Europe, they are important. But they only use the Committee of the Regions as a platform for their own activities. And as I told you, German Länder are very important, but also other regions in Europe are very important. But they prefer to lobby as their own region. And they are very efficient, like Catalonia, for example, is doing, or Scotland. And perhaps in the future, in the European Union, we're going to have an enlargement from within. If certain, what we now consider as regions, would become autonomous or independent, like Scotland, Flanders, Catalonia, or whatever, we will have an enlargement from within the European Union. It would be a very strange thing because we never expected this to happen, but it may happen at a certain stage. So the regions are very important, but the Committee of the Regions unfortunately always stayed on this level of conferences, receptions and travels, and they never produced the right results, and there were never any weight in the decision-making process. And that's the reason why they have become anodyne.
I just wanted to ask, can you give an overall evaluation of the Barroso Commission? I think I've heard, for example, that he tries to do less in order to get re-elected so he can finish the second term, just in comparison to previous commissions.
Well, I have met Mr. Barroso several times in the European Commission, and I have to say that he has introduced a presidential style. I don't know whether this was his preference, but it was the effect of the enlargement of the College of Commissioners from 20 to 27. He started off with the right reflexes. He wanted to set an agenda for economic reform in Europe. But unfortunately, his commission was struck by the no from France and the Netherlands with regard to the constitution. So as a reaction to that, to these no's, to the rejections, the commission didn't know what to do for a very long time. They just thought, what is going wrong here? What are we doing wrong? Why are people so angry at us? I remember even a meeting in one of the big halls of the European Commission with officials, with Mandarins. We had a meeting about their work and personnel policy and so on. And there was a Danish official all of a sudden who stood up and said, you know, but we came here with a mission. Our mission was integration of Europe. And now this constitution has been rejected. And I don't want to work for a sort of a Yugoslavia of European Union that does not produce anything anymore. We have to know that the Mandarins, they are idealists. They are working for you and want to make you happy. And that's why they produce integration and legislation. Now, the Commission, or the Barroso Commission then didn't know what to do, and there was this period of reflection was introduced to think about what to do with the Constitution. And over 2.5 years, basically, the Commission was not producing anything. They shied back from initiatives. There were only basically green papers, information papers and non-papers being produced and discussed. Meetings were not very long. There wasn't much to do because the Commission had lost a sense of direction. And then the Commission decided that it should come up with proposals which would be felt by people, like to reduce the cost of roaming when you have a telephone, or the cost of traveling, or that sort of measures which would be noticed by the citizen. So now the Commission is basically going towards an end because it's 2007, but within 1 year time, in 1 year time, basically the Commission will stop working because commissioners will have to look for other jobs. Mandarins will start looking for other positions within the Commission. And possibly Mr. Barroso, since he wants to succeed himself, I think he will do so, he has to please both the government leaders and the European Parliament. So I think altogether there was a lot of lost time and lost opportunity in the Barroso Commission. It was not due to Barroso himself as a person, but he was a victim of these circumstances. There wasn't much he could do. What he did do is he always had to please the Germans in the European Parliament. You have to know that in the European Parliament, basically the European Parliament is run by the Germans. And why is this the case? Is because the Christian Democratic group and the Socialist group are composed of many different national delegations, but the biggest delegation is the German delegation. So Germany has got many members of parliament, but they are well spread among 2-3 big groups, and that's why German MEPs are relatively important in the European Parliament, and Barroso always managed to keep the support of the German MEPs, and this is one of the reasons why I think he will be reappointed. So we'll go for another 5 years with Barroso, and I hope he will have more luck. That's what I can tell.
Stop. It's 10 o'clock.
Oh.
Security will kick us out. So I would like to thank you very much for your, and I'm afraid not very flattering lecture.
Well, I have to. Well, this is often said, but the book I wrote, Life of a European Mandarin, has been authorized by the European Commission.
Okay.
So you would think it would be banned, but this is not true. It has been authorized because my former bosses said it is reflecting the way it is. Now, is this positive or negative? I mean, it's showing the real world. And in any bureaucracy in the world, wherever you are, you will find these mechanisms, and you will find Mandarins, and you'll find bickering for money. And you will find the same thing in the European Union. So if you go to Brussels, like I once did with the brick ideal of everybody cooperating with everybody, and then you arrive there and you get into the corridors of power and you find out that you have to be quite tricky in order to survive, it's important to know before you go. It's better than to find it out the hard way. So that's why I wrote the book. To prepare you all for Brussels, and I hope the students will go for a traineeship.
Thank you for all your good advice.
And they will work there.
We have a lecture of Mr. Robert Cooper next week on Tuesday. He was an advisor of Tony Blair, and now he's working for the council next week, Tuesday.